standing in front of Cleburne Oaks Apartments, where allegedly an employee has been sexually harassing tenants for several years now. Here's the story of one of their tenants. Thank you for joining us today. Our voice today comes from a young lady named Christina King. Thank you, Christina, for joining us.
You're welcome.
If you will, take us back to the afternoon of the day you got your dishwasher fixed and Mike, the maintenance man, came over.
Okay, my husband actually put a request in the day before, so I was expecting him to come. He came, it was probably about 2 something, a little after 2. Knocked on the door, came in, fixed the dishwasher, asked me how things were. I told him, I was good, everything's good. He asked where my husband was. I told him he just left for work, asked where my kids were. I was like, they're at my mom's, and he was like, oh, that's cool. He was like, I never see you without them. And I'm like, I know. He's like, well, you finally get a break. I'm like, yeah, well, now I'm bored and I have nothing to do. He laughed about it. I laughed about it, and he left.
Friendly conversation. He didn't think anything about it.
Yeah. And so he left. I went to the door, locked the door. I called my husband to let him know that he came over to fix the dishwasher or whatever. And before I could even finish dialing, there was a knock at the door. And so I went to the door. It was Mike. And I answered the door, and I was like, what's up? He's like, I think I left my screwdriver. And so I was like, okay, well, let me see. So I went to the kitchen, didn't see it. Even opened the dishwasher and looked in there, and I didn't see it. And I went to the door to tell him, or I went to go to the door to tell him that it wasn't there. And I turned around, and he was standing behind me. And I told him, I don't see it. And he's like, oh, well, that was just an excuse, right? And I was like, an excuse for what? And he goes, it was just an excuse. And I was like, okay, an excuse for what? And he was like, well, I can show you how to have fun. And I was like, no. I was like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, I can show you how to have fun. And he reached for his belt buckle. And I was like, no, that's good. You can go. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You can go. And he goes, you're not scared, are you? And I was like, no, I'm not scared of anybody. I was like, but you can get out of my house. And he goes, well, did I cross the line? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead and get out of my house. And he was like, are you sure? I didn't cross the line. Are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, get out of my house. I was like, go. And so finally he left. And so as soon as he left, I locked both the locks on my door. I called my husband. I told my husband what happened. And he was like, okay, well, let me call you back. And I was just assuming he was going to call the office. And so I called my mom, and I told her what just happened. And she was pretty mad and decided to call the office too. And
so what happened after that? Did you, when your husband called, did he end up calling the office?
Yeah, he called the office. They told him that it was kind of he say, she say, so there was really nothing that they would do about it. And so he he left a phone number for Mike to call him back. And Mike told him, and he called him back, and Mike was like, no, I would never do that to you. We're homies or whatever.
So Mike is actually somebody that has been at the complex for several years.
Yeah.
Knows everybody. Everybody knows him.
Yeah. Him and the people that work in the office are close friends. They all hang out together all the time.
Oh, okay.
There's some people that live in the apartments that work for the apartments, and they all hang out. Okay. And
now, did he ever live there? Do you know? I
think he lived there. I think he just moved recently, like within the last year or so.
Moved out?
Yeah, moved out of the apartment complex.
Okay.
I think.
So when he called your husband, what did your husband say?
Well, my husband asked him, what's up? What did he just do this? And he said no, that he would never do that.
Did he say he even went back to the apartment?
Yeah, he said that he told me that he has a movie that he brought for one of his friends to watch, and they didn't want to watch it.
So he admitted to coming back to the apartment, but it was to watch a movie.
Yeah, told me, well, he said because I was bored, and they would give me something to do.
Okay.
Wasn't even close to what he did, or what he said.
Yeah. What about the complex? Did they tell you you needed to file a police report, or what did they say?
Well, my mom called them, and they told my mom that I needed to call them or whatever, and so I called the next day.
The police?
No, I called the apartments the next day because I was determining whether or not I needed to call the police and make a report about this, because I have heard some things about him into the apartment.
Tell me about something. What are those things you've heard?
Well, there's a couple people in the apartments that have said that, you know, he's had affairs with, I don't even know how many, it's a few, and I mean still people that live there right now. And I was actually at this little get together for a high school reunion type thing, and I ran into a girl that I went to high school with. And she asked me what I've been doing, what I've been up to, where I was staying, and I told her, you know, I was in Cleburne Oaks. And she said, "Oh, does Mike the pervert still work there?"
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, "Shut up, let me tell you what I'm going through right now," you know?
So and he has a reputation of...
Yeah, I mean, when we first moved into the apartments, I told my husband from day one, he gives me the creeps. He's like a pervert to me. And I've always been uncomfortable around him. Right. I mean, I never, you know, like
so now the apartments, what happened? What did they do?
Well, I called them and I asked them, you know, if there's anything they could do about it, because I didn't want, you know, to have him arrested or, you know, something major like that, but I just don't feel like he should work in that employment. Yeah. And so they basically told me that he's been there for almost 20 years and that there was nothing they would do about it, that they've never had a complaint on him before. Which I know is a lie, because my sister has friends that used to stay in the apartments and told and have complained on him numerous of times, like 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And the girl that I ran into, she lived there like 10 years ago and said that's why they moved out, because they complained and they never did anything.
So have they done anything? Did they punish him in any way? Or
no, they didn't punish him. I called the police. Okay. After they told me that there was nothing they could do about it, or there was nothing they would do about it, I called the police and asked the police, you know, what should I do? They sent an officer out to my house, and he told me that I could make a report. He was like, but there's really nothing that could be done because he didn't physically touch me. And so he said, but what I needed to do is call HUD. And he gave me a website to go to. He gave me a phone number, and he gave me a bunch of information. And I went to the website, filed a formal complaint on him, or on the apartments. And the
apartments are actually breaking the law by continuing to employ someone that has had
is sexually harassing their occupants or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's against the law for it's sexual harassment because of your sex, because you are a female. You are now not able to live in your apartments the way all the rest of the
I have 2 kids. I can't take them to the park. Him and his friends hang out right across the street from the park. I get looks from all of his friends, and these are all people that work in the apartments. And so I can't take my kids to the park. I mean, I can, but not without drama. I couldn't. This happened in the summertime, and I wasn't able to go to the pool again because he hangs out at the basketball court. And finally, after a while, my husband was still calling them, trying to get them to do something. And all that they said that they were going to do was make sure he doesn't come into our house anymore, and he has to stay within 200 feet from me, which he's not doing at all. I've ran into him 3 times in the last week.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, is it a huge complex, or
it's
is it
a small complex?
So for him to stay 200 feet away is pretty much impossible.
Yeah, basically.
So you're basically trapped inside of your apartment.
That's exactly what I am.
Right. Whenever you do laundry, can you do laundry anymore? Or
I mean, I can, but I'm like looking around to make sure nobody's out there. I'm looking around because, you know, I have kids. I can't have all this drama that him and his friends bring.
What is it that you hope the apartments will do? What is it that you wish the outcome would be?
Well, I wish that they would let him go. I don't see how they can just find it acceptable that he can do this to people, and they know good and well that they've had complaints on him many, many times before.
Even if not, they have your complaint.
Yeah.
So to keep harboring
they didn't
someone,
suspend him. Didn't give him a write-up, nothing. This isn't on any of his record if he were to get a new job,
Well, and also, if they didn't write him up for you, they probably didn't write him up for anyone else.
They never wrote him up for any of them. That's why they can tell me that there's no other write-ups, or they had never had a complaint because they don't have it on file, because they don't do it.
All right, well, so now HUD's involved in it. You have a case kind of going with them.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can get something done.
Yeah.
Hopefully with this interview we will be able to find some other people. We have found someone else we plan on interviewing that had the same complaint, and this was just a few years ago. So this guy has apparently been doing sexual harassment for quite some time, and the apartments aren't doing anything about it. And that's really what this is about. This is about people being able to live safely in their home, to live like all the rest of the tenants lived, to be able to go outside, to be able to take their children to the little playground, to the swimming pool, and not be trapped inside their apartment. And I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm very glad you got to tell us your story today. Hopefully we will find some other people also that have had the same thing happen or similar experiences. There are different levels of sexual harassment. There could be, the fact that they're still letting this man work there. How does that make you feel for other women?
For one, it's just disrespectful. And for two, it's not safe. And I know that there's not a lot of strong women out there. There are, but some women aren't as strong and will let him do things that they don't want done to,
Right.
And that's not right. Take advantage. Yeah, exactly. And that's not right. And he knows how to prey on people. He's a predator.
Right.
That's exactly what he is.
Right. And do you feel safe whenever your husband's gone from work now, or when your children home? You're alone at home. With your children.
Not really. I'm okay, but I don't feel like I can't go outside with them.
Right.
So I'm basically trapped in my house, and I have told the apartments that, and they said that there's nothing that they're going to do about it.
Well, thank you for sharing your story today, and hopefully we will get some feedback on this. If there's anyone out there that has anything else that they would like to add to this, or could add to our story, if they have a story, please let us know. We'll get you on the air, and it will help with HUD with your case. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
It is unlawful to harass a person because of that person's sex. Harassment can include sexual harassment or unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical harassment of a sexual nature. If you or anyone you know has been sexually harassed, please contact the police or your local hotline. Sexual harassment is a serious offense. It can lead to verbal or physical assault, even rape. For Cleburne Oaks Apartments to continue to employ a man that sexually harasses their tenants on a regular basis is not only against the law, but it leaves them open for something even more serious and dangerous to happen to one of their tenants. What will it take to remove this man from the property? Rape? Let's pray it doesn't go that far. Thank you again for listening to our featured voice. Please contact us if you or anyone else has been a victim of Cleburne Oaks Apartments. Thank you and take care.